One of the tweets we got from C. Leftwich, I think it is. It says, yeah. I knew one of the police officers that responded to that scene. It was an amazing period back then. We just got done talking about the amazing grunge scene from the Northwest with Peter Blecka. And because of Nirvana and the other bands, radio formats changed. The grunge scene lasted, nearly a decade? Kind of petered out. It maybe waned a little bit. But Nirvana today lives on. And even though it's been so many years, you still have people, especially around 13, 14 years old, kids growing up, still wondering about Kurt Cobain. The website, by the way, CobainCase.com. CobainCase.com. Go to YouTube, search Tom Grant. In fact, Tom, I guess that's all they have to do to find the documentary. Just search your name, right, on YouTube? Yeah, but
it would be probably better to go to your website because I sent you the link, right. And there's several different things that say Project Unplugged and Tom Grant if you just do that search. The direct link to the YouTube that I put up myself is the one that I sent you that you'd probably have on your website.
Right, we're going to have it
work.
on.
I mean, you'll find it one way or another. Or if you go to CobainCase.com, there's a link on the left-hand side, too, you can click on that will take you to the YouTube video.
I'm going to play a little clip from your documentary. The audio is not from original tapes. It's from tapes you got from me and other things. But as you started, after 7 months of doing the investigation, and you started to go public, Gil Gross, who was on CBS radio at the time, or was it ABC? I'm not sure.
CBS, yeah.
He was on CBS. He really broke it nationally. This is where I heard Tom Grant on the radio. I immediately got in touch with you, Tom. That started a whole series of events. Let me play a clip from your YouTube documentary, and we'll explain what it is all about. You'll hear me, and you'll hear some other talk show hosts in it. Here we go.
And next thing I know, off the hook from newspapers and TV stations, get a call from the Cobain estate. You know, whatever the hell that is. His money's calling me. You know, it's the estate. I don't know what that means. The front lawn is calling me? You know, the jockey holding the lantern on the front lawn is giving me a call. I don't know what that means. I'm getting a call from the estate. You mean lawyers? Oh, yeah, okay, we're lawyers. At the same time, I got a lawyer in L.A. and a lawyer in New York. And the first thing they ask from the film, what do they have to be afraid of us? Are you recording this? And I go, well, no. And what I don't say is, being a reporter, of course, I'm keeping copious notes.
And I want you, before you even think about calling in tonight, listen to Tom Grant, the man who's going to be on for the entire 2 hours. He is a respected private investigator. He's from Beverly Hills, California. Courtney Love hired this investigator to find Kurt Cobain after he left the rehab center. He started to notice inconsistencies. He started to notice that things just didn't add up. Okay, we're having some technical glitches here. Let me let this continue. This is from the documentary on YouTube that is up. Tom Grant just put up.
If I were to bring you this story, at no point did they say, don't put this on because the man's alive. At no point did they even ask, by the way, what did he say? They kept saying, well, we don't know what he said. You know that. They never said, so what did he say?
First, though, we do have to take care of some pressing business because we've had, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say a lot of phone calls this morning that
you're not exaggerating at all.
A lot of phone calls this morning who are looking for some sort of follow-up on what we devoted the entire show to yesterday, which was a private investigator who was in talking about the death of Kurt Cobain.
It's interesting. A few brave talk show hosts that tried to do a show on what we're doing tonight actually found that there was a lot of suppression. There were lawyers that would call the radio station and the network and say, don't do it. They did it anyway because their lawyers, like Gil Gross at the CBS radio network, said, go ahead. What you're about to do makes sense. That's a little clip from that YouTube documentary Tom Grant has up. Boy, what a firestorm we started then, huh?
Well, that was the thing. I was kind of naive about the way the media works and the way this whole process works as far as, you know, just telling a true story to the public. And Gil Gross was the first one to not be scared away by threats from attorneys and phone calls and letters and everything else. And that did break the ice. But from that point on, it got really, really difficult if it wasn't for you. You put me on, first of all, and we did I think the initial show was 2 hours, and then Courtney Love had her people take out a full-page ad in the media, and this will show in the documentary, too. There's a photograph of it, and some of the lines will pop out that's on that page, threatening anybody in the media to sue them if they give me a platform to speak, basically. So any radio talk show host, any television show, anybody that allows Tom Grant to tell his story is going to be sued. That's basically what the article said. You ignored that, and you went ahead. You had me on your show over and over again when everybody else was backing off because they didn't want to get involved in potential lawsuits or whatever. But you were the only person that had me keep coming back. I mean, I've done a couple of shows a couple of times, but you had me keep coming back time and time again until gradually these people on television and in other media outlets started seeing, hey, they're not doing anything. Allan Handelman's having him back over and over again. He's still coming on strong, telling the story and saying stuff that they threatened to sue him over, and they're not doing anything.
Well, so pause right there. Just remember your thought, because we have a hard break here, but this is an interesting place to pause. Just remember, because what happened shortly after the period he's talking about, NBC contacted Tom Grant, did an unsolved mystery, then Dateline, then the books, and a whole lot more. We're going to continue. The question is, was Kurt Cobain murdered? Talking about Nirvana, we're talking about Courtney Love, what makes her tick, and an investigation that maybe you've heard about, read about, several books out, Unsolved Mysteries, Dateline, but it was a rough going in the beginning as Tom Grant, the first investigator to get onto this case, started to look at Courtney in a lot of ways, and wait till you hear the evidence as we get into that and conversations he had. But where he left off right before the break, we were talking about, well, Gil Gross had him on the show. I had him on the show. You were about to talk about how you mentioned how afraid everybody was. I'll share some stories, but go ahead, Tom Grant, and continue where you left off.
Well, that was the thing. After that full-page media article came out, it was published in a magazine that is sent to all media stations and everything. It's not something you would buy off a stand, but it is something that every radio station and TV station would get. And I talked to several people who had anticipated having me on one show or another, and then they said, well, our attorneys have said we better wait on this for a while. So I knew it had an effect, and the phone calls stopped, except for yours, and you plunged forward and, took a really brave stand as far as I'm concerned. And to me, I've told you this before, you're my hero in this whole thing, because if it wasn't for you pushing forward, nobody else had the guts to do it, and it wouldn't have been aired anyplace else. Two books wouldn't have been written, the film wouldn't have been done, and then, of course, the media tour that we did in L.A. I mean, I've been interviewed by Matt Lauer now, I've been on Court TV, I've been on a ton of television stations from New York discussing this case, and none of that ever would have come about if you wouldn't have given the time and the effort, put the time and the effort, and risked your own neck, so to speak, by continuing to allow me to air my point of view. And I mean, that's what freedom of speech is all about. I'm not claiming that people have to agree with me, but I should be allowed to air my point of view, and you allowed me to do that.
Well, let me, first of all, thank you for that. And I remember the time, very, very well. It was a very pivotal time, especially as the Sunday night show was strong in syndication at that time. That was where we first started. But see, the thing is, unlike a lot of shows, one of the commitments for that show is to serve the rock culture. And that means all the things of interest to the people who listen to the music, not just the music. And that, to me, was a huge story, and I wasn't going to let it end, not with the amount of evidence, the stacks of stuff that you had. I remember a couple times talking to the lawyers at the company I was working for then, and it was so strong on their side, they said, well, go ahead, go for it. And so, yeah, I did